So what brought you to Indianapolis? I believe you moved here sight unseen. And you've been here since 2015. There's your bio, and hopefully you guys have read it. It was very, very long and extremely distinguished. So how did you end up here?
I got recruited over here, and what struck me is I didn't come here for the weather because it really sucks. Really sucks. I was in Long Beach, California, and coming over here, I've traveled around the world, and I have yet to have seen kinder, more genuine people than all of you. Hoosiers are incredibly kind, incredibly genuine. That's why I'm here. I'm not here because this is a nice building, right? I'm here because the human capital here is incredibly sort of like wonderful. I've seen things that are, people basically helping others out where they didn't need to. And if you grew up in Miami and traveled around the world and been in Hong Kong and Kuwait, some people run people over, right? In those cities. But over here, no, people kind of like are very kind and have created deep bonds and deep friends here. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah, but you didn't know that when you were moving here.
Well, they recruited me, and just the recruiting process was very interesting, just talking to the recruiters, talking to the board. And to be perfectly frank, I didn't think I was going to stay here this long. I've been here for a decade. I've been in this business for 37 years, and my average was 6 to 7 years, right? Once you kind of fix problems, you get a little bit bored and you move on. And I've managed to make great friends and have great bonds, and that's why I'm here.
Well, we're glad to have you because
I'm privileged to be here among you.
Your leadership has transformed, in some respects, this institution. And where does that mindset come from? Because I find that it's pretty rare in this neck of the woods to have leaders who are so engaged on so many levels and are thinking through every detail, from public art to wages to events, and being so open to the community. Where does that come from? And how do we bottle it and give it to other leaders around the city?
I don't think you can, and I'll tell you why. And let's go back to leadership, the word leadership, right? Leadership is not authority. Everybody can show leadership at whatever level. It's an act. That's my definition, right? And leadership is, I define it more by telling people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. So, you got to put yourself out there and tell people things are screwed up and you're going to kind of change it a little bit. But the philosophy on, I finally figured out that the most important thing over the years of travel and over years of living in different places, it's tacit knowledge. You start gathering information as you go along. You guys are the most important thing. People are the most important thing we have. And the only thing we're trying to do is make people's lives a little bit better. Whether you work here in the organization or whether you live in the community that we serve, we're just trying to make your lives a little bit better. So to that end, our people are very well taken care of. And for example, just a couple of examples, the minimum wage here is $21 an hour. That gives people that are working janitorial and things like that, at least they'll have a decent life. If you have children, you shouldn't have to choose between your children and your career. So we pay for your child care. We pay for your education in the arrears. So you go to college, there's no money up front, and you can study whatever the heck you want. We have one guy that was studying culinary, which is pretty cool. And it had no alignment with what we do, right? But education for the sake of education is good and it makes their life better. It makes everybody's life better. So that's the general philosophy.
Are you hiring?
Yeah. There you go.
I think that the airport is, when people think about the airport, maybe they don't even think about the creative jobs that are available here.
Everything is
about
creative.
That.
Everything, look, Megan's team is incredibly creative. We have art here. Now during COVID, we started hiring even more artists to make sure, we want to make sure that the starving artist moniker wasn't real, right? We don't want the artist to starve. So what we were doing is we're taking demising walls that are temporary, putting art on it, making them beautiful, and then knocking them down and putting more demising walls up and making them beautiful. So it creates this sort of like continuous need for art. You guys saw the fence coming in, right? You know what that is, right? A wonderful artist that put it up. That is covering a concrete plant, which is right behind it. We put it up to cover the concrete plant so people would have a great experience coming in, but we also put it up to make sure that the artist would have, you know, some revenue coming in. So it serves a lot of purposes. It gives her the ability to continue her art, and it gives us the ability to serve our customers and our clients and make sure that the creative class functions here in this area. Does that make any sense?
Makes perfect sense.
All right.
So I want to learn from you.
Good luck on that one.
No. Sometimes it's hard to communicate the value of art to stakeholders and decision makers.
Yeah, it's
A
because
lot
they're
of them think
stupid.
it's nice to have. Strike that. How can you talk about art and creativity as not just a nice to have, but as a value add that elevates really all things and adds economic value and impact?
It's difficult, right? It's difficult because, like I said before, it's not about the factory, it's about the people. People are attracted by art, they're attracted by culture. They're not attracted because the city has more monuments than anywhere else except for Washington, D.C., right? You all didn't come here because of that. So it really is difficult if you don't have the life experiences where the light bulb goes on. New Orleans wouldn't work. For God's sakes, Miami wouldn't work with all the traffic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All these cities that are burdened with a bunch of stuff and the infrastructure doesn't work that well. But they still work because people enjoy life there. Joie de vivre, right?
It's a tough one, I know.
It's a tough one, and it's directly proportional to the economic development of the city. And if you really look at it, if you look at statistics, the state is doing well right now, all right? And we're not importing any talent. We're really not. Birth rates are stagnant. In 2040, deaths will exceed births. And at that point, if this doesn't click in everybody's head, game over. Because at that point, you don't have enough people, enough talent to run the machine. Now, our only hope is that the really, really old people go away, like me, and the really, really young people like you, actually that get it, continue the path of leadership in the city.
Yeah, it's some sort of a weird mixture of like vibes and economic viability, right? People move for the vibes, and how do you sell the vibes? You can't put a dollar amount to it other than I think younger people feel it and they're attracted to it. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like, what's that film, the Polar Express, you know, where you don't hear the bell anymore. It's like the older you get, maybe some of that love for creativity and the vibes goes away.
Well, let's face it.
Well, wait a second.
Things change.
Do you think that all the awards that the airport has won, talk a little bit about what the criteria are, but I wonder how much of that ties in to the incredible feel of this space by virtue of
Not much. No, everybody looks at space as something important. Again, I'm a dumb engineer. I could rebuild this building 10 times. I cannot recreate this team. I can't recreate the culture. Buildings win architectural awards. They don't win customer service awards. They don't. Just think about if some of you have been in hotels that have been 100, 150 years old, and they're still at the peak. And that has nothing to do with the building. That has to do with everybody that actually works in the building. It's sort of like a living organism. And our team is the finest team in the entire industry. It's not the finest airport in the entire industry. Our team is the finest team. They really feel like they're supposed to give back to the community, and they give back to the community whether it's 3 bottles of water in the garage, take as many as you want, whether it's a hat, these are really cool, I see them all over my neighborhood, or whether it's something to actually give back to the community at large which we serve. That's the magic. And the creativity that Megan and Alex, are you still over here? There you go. Megan and Alex give out. Ted is phenomenal also. All this creativity, and he's funny as hell, by the way. So all this creativity that they bring and that they're allowed to bring to a job which would otherwise be kind of mundane. That makes sense?
It does. What I'm hearing you say is that supporting people who are creative and giving them the freedom to pursue what they love and express themselves bleeds into the operations and then comes out in a variety of different ways, including public art and engaging with the community in really organic and authentic ways.
Yes.
Well, that sounds...
Isn't she great?
No, stop it.
What Mario actually meant to say is...
But yes, building up your people it's hard, right? Folks all come in with different interests and needs, and creating an environment where they thrive is nothing short of magical. And I think that you've definitely done that here.
Thank you. But it's our team. Our team is splendid. It's an outstanding team with outstanding individuals, and we all counterbalance our weaknesses with our strengths, and you get this wonderful sort of mix. There was a very good friend of mine, Mark Morial. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He was the mayor of New Orleans, and he says that the United States isn't much of a melting pot. It's really a gumbo pot. So everybody brings a little piece. They don't kind of like merge. We have the bad habit of trying to take a person and changing them instead of capitalizing on their strengths and understanding their weaknesses. And in some cases, a weakness is a strength, right? So I've tried not to do that. Human beings are wonderful if you just let them express themselves and combine them correctly. Everything goes well. They make me look good, and they actually fix my mistakes all the time.
Well, I appreciate your humility in all of this. I feel like you set the pace, though. But you're not gonna accept that. I
No.
see that now. Fine. How about we talk about a couple of your favorite projects, creative projects that have taken place
Sure.
over the last couple of years? Does
All
one stick out to you? Like maybe a certain basketball court?
The basketball court was very, very cool. Look at this.
That was slightly
Pattern
self-serving.
Magazine again on the basketball court. That was very cool. That was Megan and her team's idea, which was phenomenal. And what was the earned media on that one? Take a guess. 20? 25?
Like 20 million or so.
Like $20 million of earned media that the city would have had to pay for, just on things that came out. And it's such a great thing to be able to provide that to the community and let them capitalize on it, because
Has anybody else done that anywhere in the country previously? Were you guys the first ones?
I don't really care about anybody else.
No, but I'm just saying some other airport's going to steal this idea.
No, it's not stealing.
That's fair.
Yeah. It's a philosophy, right? You could put it down as a simple "we care," but really we truly care about all of you. That's our job. Our job is to care about and care for ourselves, and I think that's the true philosophy. I don't think anybody cares. They just care about making sure planes take off and land safely. That's table stakes. That's like, hey, we could do that all day long. That's what I've been doing for 37 years. And that's so unimaginative. What we're trying to do is multiply the wealth that this place has, monetize the wealth, and transfer it to the community. So we don't have to do that. We don't have to do that, but we choose to do it. We developed an internal system to develop talent in the organization. We hired a school counselor and a team to actually bring kids out of high school and give them careers, because it's not just about planes flying. You have I'm an engineer. You got engineers, lawyers, Not a lot of lawyers who try to keep those. Sorry, anybody a lawyer in here? But we got engineers, lawyers, mechanics, plumbers, everything under the sun except for doctors, right? We got EMTs though, we got fire, police. So you could come to the airport and have a wonderful career, and we don't have to do it, but if we could bring talent in that would have otherwise not gone that path, we do two things. We give them a better life, which is our mission, and we also enculturate them into what we're doing, and we perpetuate what we're doing. So one of the things that we're doing when we hire people, which is going to sound weird, so bear with me, right? We test people. And our number one priority is to make sure the person has a high level of empathy. We could train. So a person that really, really, really is super trained and has a lot of years of experience and is an asshole, we don't want that person. We want a person that's empathetic, and we want a person that's trainable. So that's how we perpetuate the culture here.
Love that. Okay, let's switch gears.
Yeah.
You guys are doing a little bit of a brand refresh.
Yeah, we're doing she's
Yeah.
doing a she's doing
You keep pointing over there.
It's fantastic. We're trying to take,
Yeah, talk about that. What's behind this, and what are you hoping to get out of it? At the end?
there's kind of the mechanical side of it that our brand is like weird. It was probably a really, really maniacal airport CEO that had one too many scotches and drew it. It was back then, the 1950s, the golden age of aviation, God help us. So he drew something that looks like a Pepsi-Cola symbol with an airplane on it. So, and every airport I've been to has that sort of stupid symbol. Like, if you don't know that the airport's there, you have to have an airplane on the logo to make sure you understand it's a freaking airport, right? So what we're missing the ability to capitalize on everything we do. So Megan's direction is to make sure that whatever we do serves all of you. Doesn't serve us. No one's going to fly in here, walk around, get on an airplane and leave. This is a gateway to your community. So we're trying to make sure that it aligns with the community, and it aligns with everybody else, and it helps Pattern Magazine, and it helps all of you out. That's our job. Not getting drunk in a bar and putting a little logo on them. I mean, honestly, it looks like a freaking Coca-Cola symbol. Ted, you're not wearing a shirt like that, so.
It's on.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
So let's talk about the logistics of rebranding an entity like an airport. Like, what all goes into that? Because I know that it's a very lengthy process, and before I had some insights into that, I often wondered why it took so long. And how do you bring people aboard with the ideas? What does that look like?
And what I just mentioned is why it's a lengthy process, because the logo is for all of you. It isn't for us. We could just or the logo and the branding and everything else, we just slap an airplane or keep the one we have. So bringing the community in, talking to Visit Indy, talking to the sports court, the two chambers, talking to everybody and talking to the community at large as to how they identify the airport and how they want the airport identified in the outside world is incredibly important. And that it has to be a thoughtful, long project, and Megan's up for the task. She assures me it's going to be wonderful.
So hearing you describe that process, it seems to me, though, that it kind of flies in the face of how you sometimes like to operate. You're a little bit of a maverick with some of the things that you've done. Let's talk about Katrina and the levee and the airport. That's a fun story, I think.
That was freaking horrifying. But
he sells it good. He's like, oh, we get everybody on board, but this man takes some risks, and I think this is why this space looks the way that it is. And you haven't really talked about that, but I think that's kind of a key thing, because taking risks is what allows us to discover new things, for innovation to happen, for beautiful art to happen.
Well,
so,
and it goes along the same pattern. I'm not taking a risk. I'm just doing the right thing. This is the right thing. Now, in New Orleans, I apologize if you heard this story before. So I got recruited to New Orleans, and it's a cool spot. It is probably one of the strongest incubators for the creative class on the planet. But everything is falling apart. They call it elegant decay. When shit like falls apart, they call it elegant decay because it's a cool way of saying, hey, your building's falling down and it looks nasty. So they called me in to fix a bunch of stuff, and I won't get into the real like complexities, but rebuilt a runway, redid this, you know, the stuff that I'm supposed to be doing, right? We rebuilt a runway over here, this standard stuff to make sure the airport works, and it kept feeding into the economy, which is incredibly important. But one day I'm standing at the construction site, I'm looking around, I'm looking at this levee system. Now, mind you, I never lived under the water before, but that was the first time. I'm looking at this levee system, and it looks like shit. I mean, it's like, you look at it, it doesn't take an engineer to look at it and go, man, this thing is like screwed up. So I'm talking to people, and they're going, well, you know, it's the levee boards. It's a different system that actually maintains the levees around in New Orleans. So, okay, I go to the levee board, I talk to them. They say, what's in it for us? I said, we'll rebuild your levee. We don't want that. So finally, after iterations and iterations, I almost got them up to the point that I would have gone over and they would have done it for me. But I never got them there. So I just said, F it, let's just go do it. So they hadn't been out there in 40 years to fix it. They weren't gonna like see it. So, and if they did, I'd be in trouble, but what the hell? So, but we elevated the levee 9 feet above where it was. We armored it on both sides with concrete. Now this thing was bad. We had a railroad crossing, not to get into the engineering, but a railroad crossing that when there was a storm, everybody put sandbags out there. That doesn't work. So we actually got a gate, put a gate in concrete. I mean, this was a major project. This was like $20, $30 million. Damned if I didn't finish the project a month ahead of schedule, 3 days before Katrina. The water comes within a foot of overtopping the levee. And I mean, I got flooded, everybody got flooded, but that was the point of evacuation for the city. It became the busiest airport on the planet for 3 days. The Atlanta airport is the busiest airport on the planet. At that time, it had about 2,600 operations, landings, and takeoffs on a daily basis. We had 3,600. We had 20 deaths at the airport, unfortunately, and we had 22 births. No one named after me. So it was an incredible display of humanity, the worst and the best. So, you know, we lived in our offices for 2 months. Having 80 people in their offices and one shower is kind of interesting, but that's besides the point. I lived at the Hilton for 71 days consecutively, the airport Hilton. I became a Hilton Diamond member. It is the coolest shit on the planet. My wife uses it for business. She walks into a Hilton, we are not worthy of your presence. It's like, I got a perk out of that. And I built a trailer park at the airport to take care of our people and we lived there for 2 years. And even FEMA came by and said, this is the nicest trailer park in the world. I said, well, you guys paid for it. And we had security guards. You know, there's families and things like that. We wanted to make sure that our families were well taken care of. We had, you know, barbecue pits and stuff like that. And you got to have barbecue pits in New Orleans. So, and we actually had, among all the tragedy, it was a really interesting time. One weird story. They're all weird, by the way. The things that happen in New Orleans either happen in fiction or in New Orleans. The stories that I used to tell my wife when we were dating, she finally admitted to me, she thought it was all bullshit. Until she actually moved to New Orleans and said, God damn, it does exist. You know, this is a weird place. So, who's been to New Orleans? Okay, has anybody heard of the Brennan's restaurants? Okay. Ralph Brennan is a dear friend of mine, and he was a board member. So one of his storage areas gets flooded, wine storage area. And he comes to me, I don't know why the hell we were talking about this. And he said, look, one of my wine storage areas got flooded, and my sommelier said the wine's still good, but I can't sell. And I got a problem. I got to get rid of all that stuff. He said, you have no problem. So I sent 3 guys out there with a pickup truck. And in the evening time, Southwest had flown in pizza, and American Airlines had flown in brisket. and we were drinking Opus One out of red cups, red plastic cups. And my guys are going, this is really good. I go, freaking $500 bottle of wine. Of course it's good. I had cases of this stuff. It was wonderful. Great time. But it kind of like broke up the monotony in working in New Orleans. And it was fantastic because I did learn a couple of things. Everybody assumes that New Orleanians don't work. They do. They just work differently. And they apply a lot to the creative process, much more than work. Harry Connick. Anybody know who Harry Connick is, right? Right. Harry Connick's dad was a prosecutor for New Orleans. He sucked as a prosecutor. There's people in jail that shouldn't be in jail. There's people out of jail that should be in jail. But when he was playing in New Orleans, he played jazz in the French Quarter. Great jazz musician. So he worked a lot, but he just didn't work classically. Does that make any sense? Cool.
Okay, one last question.
All right.
We'll love all your stories, by the way. Is it true that the airport's been open nonstop since the blizzard of '78?
Yes, we have great people that make sure that everybody's safe. This is the safest airport in the United States and one of the safest on the planet. So our job is to make sure that you guys are safe and you have a good life, and you can create that by coming to the airport, right? We want to make sure planes land and take off very safely. We take that incredibly seriously. Don't take the, hey, we're focused on art to negate that fact. That's our primary duty. And this is the safest airport on the face of the planet, I think.